Welcome to this special bonus edition of the Maza's Musings podcast. Eileen and I just got back from a special, quick, but very packed Disney vacation, and we decided to just take a little bit of time to tell you all about it. Now, I'm not going to go through the whole spiel, but I just want to say thank you to everybody who has left a rating or a review. Also, you can follow us on our social media, the Maza's Musings podcast Facebook page, and we're also on Instagram and Threads on Maza's Musings Pod. Thank you if you have been listening, if you have been sharing the podcast, much appreciated. Also, be sure to go to our Instagram and We Do Disney Right to get in on our special giveaway right now. That is running through the end of the month, basically, and then we will announce the winner on the September 6th podcast. So be sure to go there for all that information. I don't want to waste any more time. I just want to get right back to Disney. Boy, isn't that a statement? Yes, I want to get back to Disney. So Eileen and I are going to break down our trip. Not a full trip report, but just some of the key highlights. We hope you enjoy it. And here we go.
Donald, wake up! It's showtime! Don't forget the orchestra.
Ah, there you are. And just in time.
Mom says there's even more magical stuff now.
For those of you standing, please hold on to the handrails throughout our journey and stay clear of the doors.
Hang on to them hats and glasses, cause this here's the wildest ride in the wilderness.
And here we go!
Well, welcome everybody, and you are so lucky because you get a bonus podcast episode this week. Eileen and I just got back from Walt Disney World, where we had a quick trip, but I feel like we packed a whole lot into a small amount of time.
It was a very busy trip.
So for a little bit of background, in case people, I know that we have some regular listeners and some people kind of pop in and out depending on what the subject is. This was not a planned trip. As Disney Vacation Club members, we usually have one planned trip a year. This year, instead of going to the parks, we had decided to go on a Disney cruise in February. So we weren't anticipating, except for the one day that we went to Magic Kingdom after the cruise, we weren't anticipating going to the parks this year. But I made a maybe irresponsible decision that
Let's call it a bold decision.
that's a good word for it. That I was going to that Eileen deserved a Disney vacation. So for her birthday / Mother's Day gift, we ended up planning a small trip. Well, I planned, without her knowledge, a short trip to Disney. So we went to Disney in August, which was another first for us. And it was a very short stay. It was a three-night stay. So...
But we did get down there and we had, it was 3 nights, but we had a full first day. We were at the resort by noon.
Right.
And we were able to stay at the resort on the last day until 3.
Right.
So we did get, a decent amount of time. So it was 3 nights, but I feel like we had a good amount of time down there.
It was a full 3-night stay.
Yes.
It wasn't we arrived at night, went to bed, and then had to get up the morning we were leaving and head out. Yeah, so that's a good point. So we're not going to do a full trip report here. I don't think everybody wants to hear all of the details of what we did and when we did it and what necessarily we ate everywhere. So we're just going to go through, because there were a lot of new and different experiences that we had on this trip. And like we said, we packed a lot in. So we're just going to kind of go day by day. The first day we got down there, as you said, right around midday, right around noon. And we kind of built in the travel day. We didn't go to a park that day. So we ended up going to Disney Springs and had a couple of different things that we did. We did some exploring, some stopping around, getting a couple of drinks,
shopping.
Yep.
Well, and by shopping, we pretty much do the Disney store there. We don't shop in all the shops that you can find in multiple places. But yeah, we got our souvenirs, we got our ears, we got the Halloween Mickey to bribe Megan into loving us again, because we did leave her behind on this trip. This was an adults only trip. And we got my pumpkin obsessed sister who was watching Megan her pumpkin Mickey decoration as well.
So then one of the big things was we had dinner at the boathouse for the first time. And I thought that was a fantastic experience.
Yeah, no, that was wonderful. And we had a reservation, for what seemed like the beginning of dinner time. Because when we first got there, it wasn't very crowded.
Right.
But when we were leaving,
there was
a huge
packed.
wait.
Yeah.
Tables were full. There was a huge wait. So I think we did it right. And food was great.
Yeah, I got the tuna, which is a regular menu item, and I thought that was really great. And you got one of the specials. Do you remember what kind of fish it was?
I don't remember what kind of fish it was, but we basically decided I was going to get fish. It was recommended by our server, and she said it was her second favorite fish on the menu.
Outside of the tuna. I think the tuna was her first.
Anyway, it was really good. And I liked it a lot. Good experience. The bread was nice. It had like a little bit of a honey drizzle on it. So that was tasty.
It's funny. I can't remember. It might have been my boss. But either her or Emily from We Do Travel Right. And I can't remember which one it was. But the first thing when I said, yeah, we enjoyed the boathouse, the question was, did you get the rolls? What did you think of the rolls? So, yeah, the rolls were really great. They had some kind of, something, a glaze or something on them.
Anyone who does more than just a plain roll, anyone who does a plain roll is good in my book, but if you do something a little bit better, a little bit fancier, we'll definitely go back.
And, of course, in Disney style, they were really great. It's always a kind of a little bit uncertain when you're going to a seafood restaurant with my shellfish allergy, which on top of it, Eileen is always super on top of. And, they had somebody come out and talk with me, one of the managers, and making sure that everything was going to be cool. So, avoid any cross contamination or whatever. They were really great about that. So yeah, great experience there. I do want to note that our dining reservations and our park reservations, basically, I booked the initial trip, but then we transferred it to We Do Travel Right, and so they did things like our dining reservations for us and stuff. So I want to thank them for getting that and securing them when they did, because on top of it, like you said, it was packed there by the end. So very, very appreciative to them.
And that gave us the opportunity to, again, have a drink after dinner, get some Gideon's cookies after dinner, and that worked out really nicely for us.
Now, yeah, we walked over to Gideon's just to see, because we've
heard the stories.
We've heard the stories about, 4-hour waits and virtual queues and things like that. So we decided to walk over there, and they didn't have any virtual queue or anything. It was there was a line in front of the building, and we asked one of the people working there, who was out front, what the wait was, and they said 20 minutes.
We're like, sold.
Yep, sold, got in line, and this was our first Gideon's experience, and it if you haven't been there, I feel like us describing it on the podcast really isn't going to do it justice. There's a great great atmosphere and kind of creepy ambiance to the bakery inside, and just everything looks delicious. You know, they've got the display cases with, in addition to the cookies, the giant pieces of cake, and yeah, it was just a really great experience, and it's so good. We ended up, well, we'll get to that, but we ended up going back again before we left for back home.
Yeah, it was great. We had a lot of fun, and again, it wasn't a wait. And I think that we've sort of always been, I don't want to say standoffish for Gideon's, but we've heard the raves, we've heard the reviews, but we're not people who will go spend multiple, like, hours upon hours at Disney Springs, because we're not huge shoppers, and Megan can only wander around or sit around for so long. So
right.
We don't spend a ton of time there. So again, like, often when we're there, it's just for this couple quick things, like whether it be dinner, whether it be the Disney store. So having just the two of us, or being just the two of us, I think also created us a lot more flexibility.
Yeah.
That we said, okay, we can check this out. We can do this.
Absolutely. So then the next day we had a full day planned at Epcot. And this was another day where we had some new experiences. So first off, this was our first time, and this is a smaller thing, but this is our first time in a while that we had seen Epcot without the walls.
Yeah, I didn't even... when we got there, Chris started to take a right and head over toward, like, the season to the land area.
Yeah.
And I'm so used to having to walk, like, to the middle of the park and then having to go around a wall. I was just like, where are we going? And we walked out a path, and the new Moana thing was right on our left, and the Seas was over on our right, and bam, we were there.
Yeah, so I'm going to back up just a little bit in that this was also our first time using the Lightning Lane Multipass system, which I thought was so much more intuitive than Genie Plus. I didn't have huge issues with Genie Plus the way that some people did, but I felt like this was more familiar, especially because we had done the old Fast Pass thing, where because we were staying on resort, we could book them 7 days in advance. So we at least had a little bit of a roadmap for how we were going to navigate the day.
Definitely. And what I really liked about it, though, was when you're booking, you can only book one of the top tier rides.
Yeah.
But as soon as you use even one, you can book any tier that's still open.
Right.
So some of those top tier rides were gone. Like Frozen was gone.
Right.
They had nothing open. We went with Remy's for our top tier ride. Mm-hmm. But Frozen. So by the time we finished with even our first one, which was at like 9:30, so it was a pretty early.
Yeah.
Pass, there was no Frozen available. So you just have to be careful with what you're reserving and make sure for your top tier you're getting the one that's most important to you. Because some of them will be gone.
Right. And the one other thing is, unlike the Genie Plus, there's no 2-hour wait until you can book another one. You get on your first one, you can book a second one, which was one of the reasons why I grabbed the Seas with Nemo at 9:30, which
was walk on at that point anyway, but
right. But it meant, like, with what was available, I grabbed it so that then we could use it and then, like, cycle on to the next one. So then we could book that next one. So it's much easier to kind of to move from Lightning Lane to Lightning Lane and kind of stack things a little bit if that's the way you want to do it.
Yeah. I will say too, I I think at Epcot, there's definitely not as many experiences where you need it for certain parks. Like we did Hollywood the next day, and it was hugely beneficial at Hollywood.
Yeah.
I think we would have been able to make Epcot work
without it. Yeah, I would say that that's fair. I think especially with Test Track being closed, that's especially accurate.
And Guardians is still virtual queue or individual Lightning Lane.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but so again, it worked really well for us, and we went in with the mindset of we were going to test it out and see how it worked.
So we did, we had that, and we did take a gamble and did the virtual queue for Guardians, and so we did end up getting that early, the 7:00 queue.
But it wasn't an early. Wasn't an early callback.
No, but then I wasn't, trying to do it at 1:00 in the park. So, but anyways, a few of the other unique experiences that we had was before we get into some of the bigger stuff. This was the first time that we saw that area that they've been working with, that the walls were there for, and I thought that was a great kind of area. We didn't go into Communicore Hall because we really didn't have a purpose for it. But that whole, and there's a name for it that's escaping me, but that whole courtyard area, some people have complained that it's a little too simplistic, but I loved it. I thought that it really captures some of the vibe of what Epcot is, supposed to be. I think it fits with the character of Epcot. And seeing the Walt the Dreamer statue, I think that's. I love that image of him kind of leaning forward and kind of looking out at
everything in front of him.
And especially Epcot was one of his big dreams. Obviously Disney World in and of itself was, but Epcot was one of those. Really, close to his heart pet project. So I think that's really great that's there. And we did go to the new Mickey and Friends meet and greet, which is in that Communicore Hall area, and I think that was sorely needed for Epcot.
Mickey needs his own spot.
Yeah, and and it's nothing. Super fancy or anything like that, but it's a good spot where you can get a picture with Mickey, and we also got Goofy and Minnie. Excuse me, all in one spot, fairly quickly. I know it's not always going to be like that, but
again, you play it right. You keep an eye on the app, and you find a time that works.
And we were also in that area. We didn't get to catch it, but we walked by while they were doing one of the Encanto shows too. Yeah. So that I feel like that area is just it's a little bit relaxed,
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it.
And I think that is something that is needed. We also found that there's a lot more seating. There were.
Maybe not even chairs, but places where you can sit so that you're not sitting on a curb. There were some chairs there. Right.
They kind of had the high stools. They kind of had the high stools with I don't want to say a bar, but a shelf there. It's kind of like a carved shelf. So you could sit and eat, or if you had a drink, you'd sit there and relax and have a drink. So it was a nice kind of reprieve area, from the bustle of some of the other areas of the park. So I thought it was really nice.
Yeah, and I think something that people need to remember is not everything has to be over the top and super crazy and super fancy. And it's okay that there's some places that are just okay, let's relax here.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be this big show everywhere.
Right. So one of the other areas that we got to experience for the first time was the Journey of Water, the Moana themed area that just opened. And now this is going to be a great spot for Megan, but
we're going to have to bring a change of clothes.
But I absolutely loved it.
We did it twice.
Yeah, I thought that it was absolutely gorgeous, and I thought that the whole incorporation of the educational stuff on not only things like the water cycle and stuff like that, but how people can make an impact in their daily lives and at home. That was a great kind of tie-in with the land pavilion and that whole area.
Yeah, no, I absolutely loved it as well. And again, it was really hot that day.
Yeah.
It feels like over 100. The temperature felt like 104, 105 that day. So it was really hot. So obviously some of it was refreshing to walk through there. But it was really interesting. The first time we walked through, I stopped and I read all the signs. I'm actually going to try and convince my principal to send my 5th grade class down there because we study the water cycle. So what better way to bring it to life?
So if you're listening, Mrs. Cologne,
Disney World? There were a few other things I'm like, oh, we need to take a trip here.
But yeah, I mean, there's some great interactive stuff there as well. I really, and I think we both did, enjoyed, there were these parts where, you put your hand at a certain level and the water would meet the...
Where you control the water.
Yeah, you control the water. And I really love that area over where if everybody
the
kind
ocean.
of like, the ocean, everybody... If everybody works together and like you can create a big wave, it really was just a fun interactive area, and again without like needing anything like super over the top. A lot of the stuff that was in there was fairly simplistic in terms of like design and everything like that, but still fun and enriching. And yes, it was nice to get a little wet, a little cool, in such a hot day. But I really think they did a great job with that area, and it was worth the wait.
Definitely.
So one of the other new things that we did, and we had been on the ride, the Living with the Land ride before.
Many times. And
we'd heard about the tour. We've actually been on the boat and seen, people on the tour as we're going through the ride, but we'd never done it before. We'd always been like, oh, that's something that sounds cool, but never did it, especially with Megan.
I don't even remember saying it sounds cool. When he mentioned it to me, I was like, oh, okay. And I'm not going to lie, I don't even remember noticing the people, or quite maybe not realizing it was a tour. But either way...
Okay, I know that we've had these conversations before. Anyway, but it came back to my consciousness again while I was listening to another Disney podcast, the Hyperion Adventures podcast, and they did the tour and talked about what a great experience it was. And so I looked into what it cost because they also said it was really affordable. And sure enough, it was really affordable. It was something like $30 a person, especially.
So there was a discount.
We
right?
had the Visa, the Disney Visa discount, which took 10% off of it. But even without the discount, for Disney, that's really not that expensive.
It was an hour-long tour.
Yes, it was an hour-long tour through the greenhouses, behind like in the land pavilion and behind the Living with the Land ride. And it was really informative, really interesting. Our tour guide, W,
whose real name was Megan, she told us.
But she says there are too many Megans in the world, and so she goes by W, was really engaging, really entertaining. And so I would recommend that to somebody who's looking for something a little enriching, a little different. Maybe there's a group rate so that when you take your class to Disney World, you could take advantage of that too. Also,
this is dreaming big. For those who don't know, I teach at an inner city elementary school, so it's really not. It's dreaming big. Who wants to fund a trip? Please donate.
Yes, yeah. If there's anybody who runs any grant programs out there who might be listening, hint, hint.
But yeah, no, it was really fun. It was very informative, and again, it was something very different because, you know, we've ridden that boat so many times, but to see it from the other side was cool too. Because as we're walking, it's like, oh, here's this spot. Here's this spot. They taught us a lot about like the way they harvest at Disney and how what they produce there doesn't come close to being able to feed like even there's the lettuces. They have lettuce that goes to one single meal at one single restaurant.
Yep.
And they're able to produce that.
And they call it like the land salad or something like that. Yeah.
So as much as it's like, wow, there's a lot of food growing in here, when you think about what Disney actually needs.
And we learned that a lot of the stuff that they grow there ends up going to Animal Kingdom.
I was going to mention that too, is that she told us that some of the stuff that they over-ripen it, and they grow it much larger than we would want to eat as humans because it looks really cool from the boat ride.
Right.
But then they've found that dual purpose that it then feeds the animals.
Right.
So the food's not going to waste. The ride looks cool. And the animals get fed.
Right, because it wouldn't look as impressive if, you know, you've got these, swirling or moving, displays of plants that don't have anything growing on it because they've already harvested everything. So, yeah, it's a nice balance between the practical and the entertainment side of.
And they do harvest stuff because, I mean, they gave us cucumbers that they had harvested that day. But I think they let certain things grow larger so that they can display them and then feed the animals.
Right. Yeah. I think a lot of times it's the things that have maybe gotten a little overripe anyway, so they just leave them there.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was really great. And Eileen also got to.
I was going to say that. And the other thing that was fun was you got to feed the fish in the tank that the boat goes right by. So that was really cool, too.
Now, is that the tilapia? Is that what it was?
I forget which fish it was because they have a couple different fish in
right.
there. But, yeah, we got to... and, you know, it wasn't just like one piece of fish food you got to throw in. You got a whole handful that you could that you could throw in.
Unfortunately, I couldn't take part because they said that there is shellfish product in what they're feeding the fish. So I just got to watch and take a fun video.
Opted to be safe.
Yep.
But yeah, so that was really cool.
Beyond that, we did a lot of the normal Epcot stuff. Yeah. I think we mentioned that Frozen was pretty much sold out. I think that Frozen Ever After was like the one ride that maybe we would have wanted to get on that we didn't.
But I can guarantee we'll be going on it in February with Megan.
Oh,
so
I'm sure.
That'll be
yeah.
And that day, at least, as it sometimes is, Remy's was up and down, but we were able to get on it pretty close to when we were hoping to get on it.
Yeah.
Guardians was great, and I'm going to say this here because I almost did not go on Guardians. I don't do super well with spinny rides. I think I've mentioned that before, and Guardians can create motion sickness, and I've seen people after the ride do that. The last time we went on it, we had like a 10 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
We got called back at about 10 o'clock in the morning. And we had eaten a light breakfast that day, like just like peanut butter toast or something, nothing huge. And so it was a good time to go on Guardians, especially with someone who doesn't love spinny rides.
Yeah.
And I still had my eyes closed like the whole time, and it still shook me. So I told Chris this time, I said, get the virtual queue, but I'm not promising that I'm going to go on it. You can go on it. I'll see how it goes. And I wasn't even sure I was going to wait in line. So we got our call back, and we ended up getting called back at about 3:30. Maybe 3:30. And we had eaten a late lunch of tacos from Mexico. So definitely not the thing that you would then want to go on on a spinning roller coaster. So we got in line, and I'm like, okay, I'll see how it goes. We'll wait. And then Guardians went down for a few minutes. Nothing crazy, but it stopped. And so we were in line for a little bit longer.
And I think that was kind of actually a benefit in terms of like letting lunch
food settle. Yes. But I was just like, so once I stayed in that line for longer than I expected, I was just like, okay, I'm making the commitment. I'm going on it. And again, I find that, if I close my eyes, it's not as bad. I know I'm missing out on some of the stuff, but I can still yell and I can still enjoy the ride. And so, yeah. I told Chris next time, remind me that I do actually like Guardians. I just have to close my eyes sometimes.
So I think there's something to be said, too, that we were in the first car, like when you get on the ride, it's the first car. I think that if you're more towards the back, it's actually more intense. Because I did see someone who, I think that she was a former cast member or somebody who had been in the college program. I'd seen her talking with some people in the line, but she asked to get either 8 or 9, like in the row. So she was off to the side, and then they stuck her in there because she had requested it. And yes, you can request where you want to go.
They might say no. But...
Well, usually what they'll do is they'll put you off to the side, and then the next time that there's an opening for that, they'll stick you in. So you might have to wait a little longer. But I think that she did that because it's more intense further towards the back. So I think that may have helped a little bit too. But either way, it's a great ride. We're living in a bizarro world now where like I'm the one who's like, okay, I'm going to go on this roller coaster even if you don't. There's this weird thing too where I'm much more okay with an indoor roller coaster. I don't know what it is. Probably because
you can't see everything.
I don't have the perspective of heights, and there may not be as much in terms of like heights as when you're with an outdoor coaster, which I understand eventually we're going to be going to Universal, but a lot of their coasters are the outside coasters, so I'm just gonna have to suck it up. But so that's not anything new. We've done that ride before. I think the next new thing that we did was we tried a new place for dinner. And
we went to Tep and Ito.
Yep.
In Japan.
Which is basically hibachi style. They make the food in front of you and everything. And again, they were great about the shellfish allergy because Eileen ordered shrimp.
I was going to say, except our chef harassed me a little bit because I opted for the shrimp. And he's like, you do know he's allergic, right?
Yeah, but he was great. He was funny, and put on a great show. We had we had a fairly wide array of audiences, including some little kids. The kid also was the other one at the table who got shrimp, the youngest kid. And there was someone at our table who was smaller than me. Now I'm a big guy, and he was smaller than me, and he got the chicken, the steak, and salmon.
Salmon add-on. Yeah.
So they actually have it's a combo where you can get the chicken and the steak, or the shrimp and the steak, or the shrimp and the chicken.
You can get a combo meal.
Yeah. So on top of one of those combos, he added on and it was a big piece of salmon. Ate it all. I mean, it was downright impressive. But but yeah. So just to illustrate, we had a wide array of tastes, and it seemed like they met it all. And it
and
was
we
a
each
great
got
show.
a Japanese beer there.
Yep.
We were saying I think this is the first time that we've bought alcoholic drinks in Japan.
Right.
We have I think we're not going to go into it. We have our go-tos, but we always like to try to mix it up a little bit. So we got a drink in Morocco this time, and we got a drink in Japan. So we got a couple new things, and skipped a couple of others.
Do you recall what your Moroccan drink was? Because that's another first for us. I
It
got
was the sangria.
okay, and I got a blood orange
Mimosa.
So nothing that was totally exotic or anything.
No, but now we can say we've had a drink in Morocco.
Yes. And then the last thing that I think that was new for us was the nighttime show. This was Luminous, correct? That's what it's called? Anyway, I've heard mixed things about this show. I thought that it was really nice. I'm not going to say to anybody that this is a must-see. Like, this isn't like Happily Ever After 2.0. But I thought that this was a really well-done show for the venue that they have to put a show on.
Luminous, the Symphony of Us.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I thought it was really nice, and we hadn't seen an Epcot fireworks show since before Megan was born.
Right.
So it was nice to be able to hang out there and not be in a rush, and we split a drink and watched the fireworks, and then we went back to the bus and went back. But no, it was very nice. It was a good. It was colorful. I liked the music. It incorporated a lot of songs that are fun to sing along to.
Yeah, I thought that it was a good blend of music, the water kind of features and everything like that, and some pyrotechnics too. I thought it did a nice job of blending all three of those things. So I'm not going to, like I said, I'm not going to tell anybody to go rush and see it. But if you're there to see it, I would say, stay for it, and you won't feel like you've wasted your time. You'll be entertained by this show.
But remember, most nights the drinks around the world shut down when the fireworks start. So if you're going to have a drink for the fireworks, make sure to get it ahead of time.
Right. Okay, so moving on to the next day, which was... This was our marathon day.
That Epcot day was supposed to be a quick conversation.
No kidding.
It turned into quite a long...
We did a lot. We did a lot at Epcot, and a lot of new stuff. So just as a little bit of background, we were planning on 2 park days. And so we were originally thinking Epcot and Magic Kingdom. But then we saw that the Not So Scary Halloween Party was kicking off the first night on August 9th. So thank you again to We Do Travel Right. They were able to secure us tickets for that opening night, which sold out very quickly. And so we decided that we were going to split up our day, and we were going to hit Hollywood Studios in the morning and early afternoon. And then we were going to go to Magic Kingdom, which we would be able to get into at 4. That's when the earliest we could enter with our party ticket. Yes, we did not have a park ticket for
we
Magic
didn't have
Kingdom.
Park Hopper that day,
right?
So
exactly.
We had to stay at one park.
So we'll start off with Hollywood Studios.
We crammed a lot into Hollywood Studios in a short amount of time. 7 days out when we did our multi-pass, I still can't get the names, but when we made our ride reservations, basically, Slink Dog wasn't sold out, but it would have been an evening time that we would have been able to get.
Yes, our challenge was we only had basically half a day because we were going to the Halloween party. We could have easily, grabbed the 3:45 or whatever it was Slink Dog if we were spending the whole day at Hollywood Studios.
But so just throwing that in there because that comes into our story. So we ended up making reservations for Rock and Roller Coaster was our top tier ride that day, and then we did the Swirling Saucers and Star Tours.
Star Tours, yeah.
So we just grabbed a couple others that fit in our time, but we really wanted to do Slink Dog, so we did Rope Drop Hollywood Studios. We probably had a 30 to 40 minute wait for Slink Dog. We were in line before they started letting anyone on it, but again, a lot of people who rope drop there head towards Slink Dog. So we did our Slink Dog wait. We were on it. So it was probably only about a 30-minute wait because we were on it before park opened and they started letting in the Lightning Lane or the multi-pass people.
Right, because we were staying on property, so we got the early entry. So we rope dropped early entry.
So we got on Slink Dog and we're off there by like 9:10, 9:15. So then we hopped on Toy Story Mania, which had a 10-minute wait at that point. So 15-minute wait. Either way, it was a really short wait. So we hopped on there.
A rarity.
We did that really quickly. And then I think it was time to head to Star Tours. So as soon as we did Star Tours, we made another... Oh, that's where I messed up, right?
Yeah.
So we went to make one for Smuggler's Run.
We're going to modify...
No.
No, okay.
No, we were able to make a new one. So we were going to do it for Smuggler's Run. A time showed up in that, like, morning window where it would work. And...
Make sure you hit confirm.
Yeah, hit all the way through. So it looked like I had made the reservation, but... So I just hit out because it said, like, this is your reservation or whatever the message is. So I clicked out of it. And then... we, moved on. I think we went to the saucers next. And so then I went to go make another one because we had used it. And we found out that we had not confirmed the Smuggler's Run didn't show up. So just make sure you scroll all the way down to hit confirm or next or whatever the thing is that makes it so that you actually...
After you select the time, it takes you to a separate screen and it kind of shows you, and it says something like, confirm that this is the time, blah, blah, blah. But you have to go down, scroll down and hit confirm, so then it logs the Lightning Lane.
So anyway, we were able to pick up on Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway at a time. Runaway Railway at a time that worked for us. And, we've done that a bunch anyway, but it's a fun one to do. After we had done some others, we were able to get another Smuggler's Run at about 2:30, I think was the time. Yeah. But we kind of, at that point, evaluated ourselves and said, we could do this and head right to Magic Kingdom and be really hot and sweaty going to Magic Kingdom.
We also had to change into our costumes for the Halloween party.
And we had brought them with us in case we decided to go right to the park. But we kind of looked at it and said, you know what? Let's go back to the resort. Let's rinse off quickly and hang in some air conditioning. We weren't at the resort for more than 45 minutes, but it was enough that we were able to kind of cool down and then start off fresh for the party.
And the heat index that day was 109, which, we've heard about Disney in August and such, but this summer apparently has been hotter than most, even by...
And that's what people have told us down there.
Yeah, even by Florida and Disney World standards, it has been hotter than usual. I wouldn't expect it to start getting cooler either, given the way that the Earth is going, but...
And you know what? If we were to be down there for longer, we would have taken breaks. We would have done pool. We would have, had more time. But we were trying... We intentionally, the purpose of this trip was to cram a lot into a small period of time. So, but yeah, so Hollywood, I mean, we pretty much did everything we wanted to do at Hollywood, but decided to cut it a little bit short so that we could kind of refresh a little bit.
Yeah, and that's where the multi-pass really shone through as a beneficial tool, because we would not have been able to have hit as much as we did without that.
We also had bought the individual Lightning Lane for Rise of the Resistance because
I'm a huge nerd.
Yes, but we also knew we were going to rope drop Slinky.
Yeah.
We didn't have we didn't get a Lightning Lane for Slinky, so we knew we were going to rope drop Slink And so we knew we couldn't rope drop Rise, so you did purchase that.
Yeah. So then we did the Halloween party, which we repurposed.
Can I start off? Okay,
Sure.
sorry.
No,
Tell about the costume,
Okay.
and then I want to, before you get to the park.
So we repurposed our one of our running outfits from our Run Disney experience from not
2 years ago.
Yeah, not this last year, but not this last Princess Half Marathon weekend, but the one before that.
So 2 years ago.
It's not quite too.
Okay.
Anyway.
Anyway.
So we actually brought both of our costumes from the 10K and I say costumes, quote unquote. It's really more like bounding, but it was closer to a costume than it was just like
I think it's
having,
more. Yeah. It wasn't. It was more than just colors.
Kind of in between. But we went with the Moana and Maui because
they were
much
lightweight.
cooler. Yeah.
Yes.
The other choice was, well, yours would have been okay.
Yeah.
Your Anna costume, but
the Moana dress is more comfortable.
But me as Kristoff with something with, even if it's fake fur would not have been.
That would have got real annoying on your neck.
Yeah. So that's what we did for our. It was nice and lightweight, and that was pretty key for for as hot as it was.
So it started off. We went down. We were originally hoping to get there at 4 to totally maximize our time. We ended up heading down to the bus around 4, and we were probably 10th or 12th in line for Magic Kingdom, but we were waiting forever for a bus. It was getting to the point where we were so like everyone in that line, because like 3 Animal Kingdom buses came through, and there was one person in line for Animal Kingdom.
Well, and then we had the double bus
that pulls up. It let people out,
and it showed Magic Kingdom,
and then it turned off. And he said another bus is on its way. And it was about 5 minutes later when another bus came in. It was the regular bus, not the big bus.
Yeah.
And so it's like most of these people in line are not getting on this bus. Anyway, so turns out though that Disney Magic works in mysterious ways, at least for us, because right as the bus was approaching, it started to sprinkle. And so we get on the bus, and it pours.
As soon as we got on the bus.
And it pours for a good chunk of the bus ride over to Magic Kingdom. But when we got to Magic Kingdom, it was not raining. The sun was out. And it had poured there because you could see the ground. It had poured there not much earlier. So in a weird way, that extra long, really annoying bus wait actually kept us dry.
Yes.
So it worked out in a weird way.
So as far as the party goes, we kind of did a little bit of everything. And before we get into like when the party actually started, we were there a little early, and I feel like we were a little bit lost as to where we should go, what we should do, because there were certain things that we wanted to experience as part of the party.
Well, we were very lost to start because we walked in and they were doing the
the flag.
The flag.
I can't remember what they call it. But yes, they were taking down the flag, and they had a veteran there who they presented the flag to.
So we started, and we watched that. And in watching that, which was the first time we've experienced that too, it was very cool to see. We missed the party entrance. So like, there was an area off to the right where you enter for the party.
The flag retreat.
Thank you. So we ended up just walking down Main Street and kind of followed their little procession down and saw the castle. We were doing some pictures, everything like that. And then we started to notice that people had trick-or-treat bags. So we were just like, where did you get those? And so we went back, and I think had the flag retreat not been happening, we would have had no problem noticing the party.
Right.
But we saw that, and we're like, oh, this is cool. We want to watch this.
Yeah.
And so we missed the entrance. So again, as long as you're not there right at that moment, it won't be an issue. But just be aware that the entrance is off to the right. So we had to kind of go back and get our trick-or-treat bags. And,
Yeah.
Then we were in the party, and as Chris was saying, we weren't quite sure what we wanted to do.
So we jumped on a 20-minute wait for Pirates. Then we made our way over towards Tiana's Bayou Adventure, which basically they were not. We weren't going to ride that until because normally that is something that you need a lightning lane for, or a virtual queue. They don't have a standby line, so. For the Halloween party, they were establishing a standby line for the first time. Now, I mean, they kind of have that because they've got the virtual queue,
yeah.
But so we couldn't get in a standby line yet.
They weren't starting the standby. The line started.
Right, the line to get in the line.
They weren't moving the line, whereas other rides were you just got in line and it went as normal. They weren't starting the standby line until 7. I think they actually started it a little bit earlier.
I think so.
But
either way. So we ended up doing...
We did Big Thunder, and we basically walked on to Big Thunder. And we did... we had dinner at Pecos Bill.
Yes, but I'm trying to remember. It was before that. Was it when we're walking from Pirates, which, by the way, it apparently was pouring. Well, it was pouring when we... were in Pirates, and it stopped like right when we got the ponchos out.
We were about to put our ponchos on, and it stopped.
So then we walked that way, and we were able to get Tiana's famous beignets.
Oh yeah.
Now that's another first, and those. Now I've heard about the Mickey beignets before, and how good those are.
Those are so good.
These, I've never had those, but these ones had a little extra touch because they had the honey drizzle on them. They were so good.
They were.
Do not, and I can't remember the name of the stand, but if you are facing Tiana's Bayou Adventure, it's this little stand that's off to the
And it's always been there.
It's always been there, yeah. And the name is escaping me, but you can get it there. You can also get it at the Friar's Nook, which is a little bit further flung. And I thought that was a little weird that they were serving them there. But anyway, those were phenomenal. That was a great snack, before we had dinner.
Yeah. So then we went to Tiana's. We were like, when they said, "Oh, we're not starting it until 7," it was probably 6 then. We're like, we're not going to stand in line for an hour to then
wait for
stand in line for an hour. So we opted to wait until closer to 7 to get in that line.
Yeah.
We were on that ride within 40 minutes. They had it posted as a 70-minute wait.
It was not
close.
Not close.
And that was priority for us. So we did say we were getting on, we would wait for that.
Yeah. So having now experienced Tiana's, what do you think?
I will say I love it, but I don't know that I love it more or less than Splash. I really loved Splash. I thought it was fun, and I think Tiana's is fun. Obviously, they're very different in terms of style, but I think when I look at it, the ride and everything is still the same. And so, there were times where I'm like, wait, is this a drop? Nope, this is the drop. And what I will say is I think it was definitely more, I use the word fun, but it doesn't necessarily mean you had more fun on it. But the animatronics, everything like that, that was much more fun.
It was lighter.
More and I mean, it was very visually pleasing. It was very fun to see.
I thought that it was very beautifully done, especially when you compare especially the set pieces, where when you go from one part of the story to the next, I thought if you held up, Splash Mountain versus Tiana's, you would see what the contrast is
Huge.
pretty stark.
Yes.
It's a beautiful, beautiful ride. I think that the thing that I found was in between those set pieces, those different parts of the story, there wasn't as much to look at. You know, I remember on Splash Mountain that there would be like these little details and little things like, you know, critters or things like that in between the stations or whatever they might call them, that kind of like would grab your attention. With this, it felt much more like you saw a scene and then you were just sitting there waiting for the next scene
to it as opposed to it or something.
So that's something that if they were going to improve this in any way, that might be something that, you know, that they do. Even if it, you know, at this point the ride is made, you know, and they weren't going to change the actual mechanics of the ride. But that might be something that they could look at. I thought that it was fun. You know, I had a good time on that ride. You know, it was, I will say, the celebration at the end, that's a beautiful scene.
So
that's a
nice.
great scene. The song, not quite as catchy as Zippity Doo Dah.
Well, no.
You know, but I think that like that whole thing is just like you walk in there and like, whoa, like
no, I thought that was
you float
really
in there.
nice.
You know,
Yeah.
I thought that overall I thought that it was well done. The issue, which we didn't experience, but apparently people later in the day experienced,
just keeps
they
breaking
can't
down.
they can't keep this ride going, and I've heard various rumors as to why that is. That they didn't test these things in the heat, so you know that's the problem, or you know just like there are problems with timing or whatever it is. They need to solve that issue. We did not experience
almost
daily. It goes down at some point, and yeah. So I'd love it if they can fix that issue, and there isn't the trepidation that it's going to go down. I think that this is a great ride. You know,
Yeah.
And people have complained. What does the Bayou have to do with Frontier?
You said the other day the Frontier is always changing.
Well, and beyond that, what did it replace? It replaced something based on Song of the South, which is also not the Frontier. So, you know, it's...
Well, and when I think of the Frontier, you often think of a lot of, like, new areas that are being explored.
Yeah.
There's a lot of bayou that you haven't explored all of the bayous yet.
Well, even if you have, most of them are, you know...
Murky.
Yeah,
and
have you know, alligators.
They're
and,
ever changing.
Right,
so, yeah.
Anyway. But yeah, I love that ride. I thought that it was really well done.
And I think, like, Megan will enjoy that a lot more than she would have Splash Mountain.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, I think that the story is much lower stakes. There isn't the element of danger.
Right, I was gonna say there's not the
some people
spookiness in
now
there.
I will say that like I did miss that a little bit, like the anticipation a little bit. That would build up with Splash Mountain and you know the vultures and everything. It does build up anticipation for the drop, but that's not what it's for. The drop is now meant to be more like a
celebration,
a thrilling entrance into the party. So,
yeah.
I have no real gripes other than you know it would be nice in between scenes if it was a little more engaging.
And I think I kept my eyes open for the drop. I close my eyes a lot and yell a lot. So anyway.
So she ends up missing most of the ride and giving me hearing loss, but you know, or you know,
I couldn't talk the next day.
Yes, she couldn't. Yeah, that was the peril of doing 2 parks worth of rides with roller coasters and drops, you know, in one day.
Yeah, I could not talk the next day. It was bad. But yeah, so I guess, again, the rest of the party, we had a couple priorities. Tiana's was a priority. We wanted to watch the parade, which was awesome. I really loved
that was
the
a
parade.
fun parade. It really was.
We don't need to go into all of it, but we definitely really, really enjoyed it. We watched it in Liberty Square.
Yeah.
And
which I thought was fitting, especially with how the Headless Horseman starts the whole thing off, and it's got that, you're in that area with the colonial feel and everything like that.
So yeah, that was a lot of fun. I'm really glad that we did that. We watched the early, I think it was 8:15, but we watched the earlier one. We also had priority for the fireworks, and we did that. Which was a fun little show. It was a fun show. If I were to do the party again, which who knows if that will ever happen, but if I were to do that again, I don't know that I would make fireworks a priority, but for a first time, they were definitely a priority.
Yeah.
And then we had promised Megan that we would meet Halloween Mickey. So that was another priority. I think those were our 4, we have to do those things.
Yep.
And then we kind of took advantage and we found some, Space didn't have a big long wait time. It was 20, 30 minutes. Space Mountain. And that was cool because it was pitch black and it had the spooky music going on inside.
And did you notice it looked like the Headless Horseman riding by at one point, or were your eyes closed at that point too?
They might have been closed at that point too.
Something flew by us at one point that looked like it could have been the Headless Horseman.
It very well could have been. I know that they do that one kind of with an overlay for Halloween, so that was cool. And we did Tron, which didn't have a big long wait. Yeah,
we ended the night with Tron. We were heading over towards Tron because we saw at the time that I had a half-hour wait. And then by the time we got over there, the wait had jumped up because probably a bunch of people saw that. So we
hopped on Space.
So we hopped on Space Mountain instead. And then we got off Space Mountain. It said that Tron had a 35-minute wait.
So
and we just decided to do it. And so that was our last ride of the night. So we fit a lot in, and we also,
I think we did 4 trick-or-treat spots.
Yeah, what are there, 15 or something like that?
There were a bunch. We definitely did not come close. We
didn't go to Fantasyland at all.
No, we didn't. We definitely just did not even make it over there. So we did do Haunted Mansion. That was fun. I feel like you had to do that.
And they had... for the Halloween party, they had a performer out there in the graveyard before you walked in.
They had a ghost out there. I don't know what you're talking about, a performer. It was a ghost.
Well, she put on quite a performance. So maybe a
performance ghost?
Maybe she once was a performer.
Other life.
In her mortal state.
Anyway. And of course, it's all lit up very spooky. So that was one of our longest waits too. But we did that one right after the parade, and I think a lot of people did that. But again, we're right here in this area, so let's do it.
Yeah.
We did a few of the photo pass spots, but again, our big we did all of our priorities. And had a really great time.
Yeah, we hit the things we wanted to hit and did a little bit of everything else. So I think we played it the way that we wanted to play it. There are certainly, if you were looking to maximize the rides, there's certainly the opportunity to do that because a lot of these things did not have long waits, and especially when you don't have the lightning lanes and things like that, the standby lines just move.
They move.
So
it was nice.
Yeah, so I think overall that was a fun experience. I don't know when we'll have the opportunity to do something like that again.
No, but I can absolutely see why people go more than one time a year even, because if you want to experience the entire party, you can't do it in one night.
Right.
We didn't do any of the shows at the castle.
No.
Which again,
we passed by them a couple of times as we were going from one place to another, but yeah.
But yeah, no, I definitely, if I had an opportunity to do it again, I absolutely would. The hard part is most of them happen while I'm in school.
Right.
And, you only get so many business days as a teacher, and long weekend travel is really expensive.
Right.
If you were to take Columbus Day or something like that, that's really expensive to travel. So that's why on top of it, when we saw that the party was while we happened to be down there, it was like, yep, we're doing it. Absolutely.
So yeah, and then our last day we had a later flight, so we kind of had some
Which
time
was
on our
good
hands.
because we slept past 7.
Oh, because we were at the park until midnight, so we were,
we walked out the gates after midnight. We
Yes.
then had to take the bus, and we are not stay up late people.
Yeah, the fact
We are not.
we're not stay up late people, and the fact that we slept past 7:00 because we're not sleep in people either, says a lot as to how much this day took out of us.
Yeah. Especially, I think the heat was a big part of it, but it was a lot of fun. And yeah, so we had just a slow morning. We went down, we had breakfast, then we checked out, and we had sort of kind of gone back and forth between, do we hang around and swim and then have some drinks, or do we go to Disney Springs? And we ended up not swimming because we figured, we'd use the pool, but after a half hour we would have been done.
Yeah.
If we were there with Megan, we would have been there for 2 hours swimming.
Right.
But with just the two of us, we're not going to swim there for forever. And,
So we went to Springs.
and got another drink, or we got one last Springs drink. We thought it was going to be our last drink, but then we had a little time back at the resort. So anyway.
But before that, we checked out the Gideon's line, and again,
No, we had our drink in the Gideon's line.
right, we got our drink.
Oh.
And
And
then
then
we checked out the Gideon's line, and it was 25 minutes. And, well, they told us it was 25 minutes.
It was shorter
not
than
25
the night before,
minutes.
or than the first time we were there.
And so, we ended up bringing a lot of Gideons home.
Which, I mean, we brought some for my sister,
Right.
who watched Megan, and we did freeze a few, and Megan now really likes them too. So,
I hope that she's not expecting it because, if it is a, 4-hour virtual queue, I'm not doing that.
no, but it seems like, and they told us in line, if it's the later in the evening it gets, and especially on Thursday, Friday, Saturday evenings, they definitely tend to have a longer wait. But
Being there on Wednesday afternoons, when it's 100 degrees, probably helps.
and Saturday it was about noontime.
Yeah.
So
And 100 degrees.
I don't think it was 100 yet. But yeah, so it was a really great time, and we definitely look forward to our next trip.
So, real quick before moving on, what we've heard a lot about how it's the dead season, and that the parks aren't packed, etc., etc. How did you see the parks in that respect?
I don't know. And I think I was telling you, I really couldn't tell if it was busier or not. And it's hard, and I don't know if it's because, and I hate to, we've gotten pretty good at, maximizing, wait times and things like that. I don't think it was super crowded, but I also don't know that it was less crowded.
So we've seen it over the past few years, in really a few different. We've seen it super packed, and we've seen it in COVID time.
And I think in my brain,
It was not COVID time.
No.
But I will say, I felt that it was even easier. Basically, the way that I see it is, could I maneuver a stroller through this? And Megan's getting to the age where a stroller is not really going to be a thing very much, but I felt like the crowds as they were something I could easily navigate a stroller through. Whereas there have been times where basically I have a choice of either waiting or using the thing as a battering ram. So it definitely was lighter. I felt that it was a little airier. You weren't elbow to elbow with people, but it wasn't empty. So when people say it's dead, it's not empty.
And I think that's maybe where, and maybe, we've been there and we've seen it empty.
Right.
We went there in December of 2020 and it was empty. And so I guess when I hear empty, I guess I maybe had more in my mind like that there really would be
like the COVID times.
Yeah. And nothing's like COVID times anymore.
Right.
But so I guess like the right mindset, yes, there were fewer people, especially we go Princess Weekend.
Yeah.
So we're there at a busy time. So the one thing that I did say, and again, this was the party where obviously they sell a certain number of tickets and there are less people in the park. But I remember saying to him, like, we got there for the fireworks probably like 25 minutes early and there was still tons
of space.
room. I'm like,
we
wow.
left too much space because people ended up, including like the world's tallest man,
But it was easy for us to move too.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's the one time, and again, that was the party, so it's a little different, but that's the one time where I said to him, I'm like, wow, this is definitely less people than you would typically
The party's
have.
a whole different animal.
But yeah, I guess there definitely were fewer people. But it's hard because it's like Disney's always crowded. And I guess I had in my head like empty. So that might have just been me having the wrong impression.
Right.
So, yeah. But I guess in terms of like crowds compared to when we've gone before, yes, fewer crowds.
All right. And that is our impromptu, well, not completely impromptu. We didn't like just buy tickets and fly down that day, but our semi-impromptu Disney vacation.
No, I've almost done that a few different times. I told you, I actually have had multiple. Well, first time was I was like a junior in college and literally had looked up plane tickets and park tickets to go down, see the fireworks, and fly back the next day. And determined it was out of a 20-year-old's budget. That was but it was really, it almost happened. And then we've talked about it like randomly before. It's like, we could go there tomorrow. I think the closest I ever came though was I was like 20 years old and we looked up park tickets and we looked up that. I'm like, we could be there for the fireworks and then we could get a flight tomorrow night back and we could have a day at Disney. There might have been some drinking involved in that too. So luckily that didn't happen.
Many a Disney trip, not necessarily ours, have been booked under the influence and,
I mean, ours have been under the influence, but not necessarily of anything addictive, unless you're calling
Disney addictive. Yes, we're under the influence of Disney FOMO.
It's real.
Well, I can't do any more damage around this popsicle stand.
So long, partner.
See you real soon.
Well, what we thought was going to be a quick podcast going over some of the key highlights of the trip ended up turning into an hour-long episode, which just goes to show that even on a short trip, how much you can pack into a Disney vacation. We had a ton of fun. I'm so glad that we got to experience some of the new experiences that we did, and I can't wait to go back again, of course, with Megan in February, so we're counting the days to that. And I hope that maybe this was a little bit informative for you guys who have been wondering about some of this stuff. If you have any other questions, you can feel free to reach out to me, mazasmusings@gmail.com, or the Maza's Musings podcast Facebook page, or Instagram and Threads, Maza's Musings Pod. Don't forget to go there to check out the information on the giveaway as well. Thank you to Emily from We Do Travel Right for setting that up for us. If you haven't left a rating and review, please do that. It makes it so much easier for other people to find the podcast and help us grow and help other people get in on the fun. We're going to have some other fun topics coming up. We think we're going to have some more talk about D23 and what that means for the Disney parks coming up. As I've mentioned before, my friend Dan was at D23, so once he gets back from the West Coast, we hope to have him on to talk about some of his experiences and some of the things that he saw, not necessarily about the announcements, but about the experience of being there. Also, my birthday is coming up at the end of the month, so we might have a special birthday edition that might be a little bit outside the norm. If you've been listening, I appreciate it. Tell your friends. We've got a little bit of something for everybody and a whole lot for our Disney-loving fans. And as always, I hope you have a great weekend and a great week.